God, not another bloody Tesla drag race. Since its launch in 2012, I estimate the Model S has been filmed in over 6 million drag race videos. Or something like that anyway. But somehow the car itself still feels like a bit of a mystery. So today, let's forget Ludicrous Plus mode and find out what Tesla's headline-grabbing drag race hero super-saloon actually drives like. Maybe the city is this car's natural habitat. Apart from being a big old bus, it is uniquely relaxing, almost silent, completely effortless, and thanks to the strong braking effect of the electric motor's regen, you almost never need to actually use the brake pedal. The steering is smooth and light, the ride on standard fit air suspension is firm but not horribly so, and it feels in keeping with the instant response of the motors. There's a sports saloon vibe here rather than just a big wafty S-Class-like feeling. This P100D costs from £129,400 in the UK and $135,700 in the US. It has 603 horsepower and 713 foot-pounds available instantly. On the motorway it is of course impressive too, smooth and quiet with the best infotainment in the business, and just a feeling that this is an all-new experience but also entirely normal and intuitive. But is there anything here for people who really enjoy driving? So before we disappear completely onto proper roads, as I like to call them, we should charge this to the brim. I've never done this before, but I think it's pretty simple. I aim this here, press this button, and it opens. That's it. I was trying to force it. Now I'll go and have a cup of coffee. When I come back, should be ready for some proper roads, which I'll be very happy about. So this is the Model S on the sorts of roads that I really enjoy. Now maybe it wasn't built for this environment, but a near £150,000 sports saloon needs to do more than just feel comfortable on mundane journeys. It needs to be fun and it needs to be exciting. These are old-fashioned qualities in a car that is relentlessly focused on the future. Now I didn't want to dwell just on the performance of this car, but it is very hard to discuss the P100D without just talking about how fast it feels. The response is instant, as you'd expect, but it's the weight of the response and how it just keeps on coming at you that's really, really shocking. The way this car gets up and goes, it never fails to shock you. This thing weighs over 2 tons, but the way the numbers build is unreal. So the crucial question is whether the chassis can keep up with that absolutely wild drivetrain. The answer is mostly yes, I would say, actually. It rides pretty well. It's quite stiff, but it's not horrendous by any means. The steering is actually not too bad. It gives a passable impression of feel and feedback. You can sort of get a sense of what the surface is beneath the tyres, and the rate of response and the way the car changes direction actually feels pretty natural. On top of that, there's never any real sense of a loss of traction, and that just adds to the sense that this car doesn't really conform to normal rules. That amazing response from the torque and the fact that you can just use it with impunity. Now the temptation is always to try and put this car in the context of other stuff, because it is, I keep having to remind myself, 150 grand this one as tested, so it's a ton of money. It doesn't have the agility, the response, the sense of lockdown control that you get with, say, an M5 or an E63. It doesn't have that. But that doesn't mean that the car doesn't handle pretty sweetly, actually. The balance is not too bad. Okay, it's not an M5, but compared to a 7 Series, an S-Class, something like that, it's probably more fun and more focused than those cars. So it's somewhere in between the two. If you want to push hard, drive it like a sports saloon, you do find there's a bit more understeer than you'd want. And although the chassis feels like it might have more to say than just understeer, the electronics do not switch off and they just cut any slip at the rear stone cold dead. It seems weird to me that a car that in the future is going to support fully autonomous driving, but it won't afford the bloke sat behind the wheel the same luxury right now. So I don't feel fully in control of it. So the noise, we need to discuss the lack of noise, I suppose. Do you miss that in the driving experience? Well, to start with, I don't think you do actually, because this feels so different, this car, with the regen braking, how aggressive that feels initially. You have to relearn how to drive the car smoothly. The fact that it doesn't sound like a conventional car, it fits. But as the miles go on, it allows you to be removed from the process of driving, I guess. So what's impressive about it, what's engaging about it, is the performance rather than the actual act of getting involved in exploiting that performance. Although that's fantastic for some people, it's definitely not the experience that I crave as a driving enthusiast, definitely not. So I have to say, I've really enjoyed experiencing this car. I'm a bit late to the Tesla party, but it's been fascinating just to spend a few days with it and drive it in all different environments. It is a staggeringly impressive car. But I can't help thinking that the proliferation of drag race videos on this car, and maybe because being hurled from 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds or whatever it is about as exciting as it gets for the driver. That's where this car is unique and amazing and fun, but that's sort of the only place.
Maybe I've been too harsh on the P100D. It really is a remarkable car, madly fast, fantastically refined, and pretty sweetly judged in terms of ride and handling, save for the very nannying stability control systems. It's also perhaps easier to live with in terms of charging infrastructure than some would have you believe. It's a viable, fascinating car, and they're only going to get better. But the future development seems to be all about autonomous, and I think the driver might be left out in the cold completely. A reinvention of the Tesla sports car is in order, I think. Imagine what that would do to a conventional supercar in a drag race if their lardy old saloon car can still do this.